Regular latte. I think that is like kind of congested, but you can repeat.
I don't want him to have it.
Yeah, dip out of that. I know. Yeah. Look at that. Ethan, have you been down by the pool yesterday? The entire pool says western side. Yeah, it's like WS. Yeah, the entire wall across the pool, all across like the locker room and all across the really big. And all these cops there were like walking their way to class. All these cop cars are pulling up and looking at it and shit. Yeah. It was the west side of the hello, everybody, please. Oh, yeah, wow. I swear I didn't do that. I don't believe you. It was 100% my fault. Put those in the drawer. I think it's fourth from the bottom that says solar health plan. Yeah, appreciate it. No, you can open it. All right, Joe. Oh, yeah. See that Ryan Morey is absent? Gavin Gerke. Gavin Cohen. Hey, yeah, can you put the bottom one? Gotcha, bro. Daniel Feinberg. Not that I'm aware of. I mean, this doesn't show it. Peter Gerson. All right. So, I want everyone to know I have now finalized the Unit 7 plan, and you'll notice I've moved your solar house plans 1 week further than I told you yesterday. Don't laugh. This wasn't me trying to be nice. It was me trying to get better work. And I know I can't be too punitive if I'm only giving you a week. But I figure if I give you 2 weeks, that can be pretty demanding. So I mostly am just raising my expectations. I'm not really throwing into a preview. Yeah, right. Can I help anybody in this part of the class with whatever seems to be so distracting, Tyler Newman? Or Allison or anybody else? Okay. Yes? So tonight I'm showing a movie called Burning the Future of Coal in America, and we're about to get into coal. And the movie that I'm showing tonight is about how a lot of people in the eastern United States, where we get most of our American coal, are not really enjoying the coal industry. As a matter of fact, the coal industry is by many measures one of the dirtiest and most dangerous parts of our economy. So a lot of people in Appalachia have sort of unified against coal extraction. And I have to apologize if my movie is a little bit too activist. I don't really need you guys to be political activists, and I don't really care if you guys protest and organize and wave banners and whatnot. What I can say for sure is that people in Appalachia have been really hurt by coal. I gotta warn you, remember that a lot of people in the Appalachian Mountains laugh at Californians. So if you have an impulse perhaps to laugh at people in Appalachia, because I got to tell you, this movie has some unfortunately very stereotypic Appalachian people. Most of those mean things that people say about Appalachian stereotypes are displayed flamboyantly in this movie. But I hope that you can not be too distracted by that. It has some like really sad stories about how coal hurts American cities and communities. Yeah.
This is kind of off.
Yeah. Okay.
Your calendar, the last week of the day off.
Thanks. So I'll fix that. Thank you. Here we go.
I'm unemployed. I can't afford to buy any water. I'm worried now every day that I'm going to die. I mean, a lot of these people will, if they would watch out for my kids, you know, if I do die. We'll burn an average of 23,000 tons a day.
Finding oil and gas and coal in our own hemispheres in our national security interest.
Some of the wells have lead. There's arsenic. Y'all have bad luck.
You're sitting here looking at your kid, you don't know if your baby's going to die or not. Well, these politicians are out these laws, and nobody does nothing.
It's just wholesale environmental devastation for cheap coal.
We have kids at this school that are sick. This is ridiculous.
Coal, nearly extraction water. It's killing people.
Don't clear all this road here, you the rest of the truck. I guess you have the rest of the
We cannot fix our survive as everything that our life is based on is annihilated. This is our state, and we're taking it back. It's time to say no more. Yeah, I'm right. I'm not a tail.
All West Virginia is running into is a story about what is one of those 4 years.
Like I said, I don't know, kind of activist, and like the guy where he said that I worry daily about it every day. Like, people make fun of Californians too, just so you should know that. We say like too much, we're all very vain. Anyway, I'm not vain at all. I don't have to be, look at how good I am. I don't have to be vain. You're on. All right. Next, I need you guys to do your own research for your solar house plan, and I think I've mentioned that. I could explain all the different options, but by students being creative and putting them together their own way, over the years they've told me that helps it stick a little better. I've talked to students who come back 10 years later, and the only thing they remember from the class is the project. So, yes.
Well, can we design the house for like different climate zones, or do we have to design it for Santa Barbara?
No, Santa Barbara. And so I just wanted to give you a list of the stuff you should be looking for. I think this is very valuable. You should maybe photograph or copy this down. And I'm going to do this really quickly, and then we'll get into the car lots of the future. While I'm doing this, make sure all your posters have everybody's name and everybody's periods on them. Here comes some stuff about passive solar design. Okay, first, one of the most obvious things about passive solar is, like we discussed with this classroom, the orientation and geometry. That is, facing the building south, for example. Having a lot of windows that face the equator. If you're in the southern hemisphere, you're facing north. So really, we should say facing the equator. Then the relative angles of the roof's eave, the windows, the floor, and the walls. So we say orientation and geometry so that you can impact the exposure of your interior and exterior space. Next comes color, and I think it should be obvious that dark house versus light house, but I want to remind you, how could you get both benefits in the same house, rather than going for gray, which is in the middle? You could put white on the parts that are more exposed in winter, and dark on the parts that are more exposed, the other way around. White on the parts that are more exposed in summer, black on the parts that are more exposed in winter. So remember to use both color extremes, not just split the difference. Number 3 is the source of great consternation for my students. Remember that insulation is when you keep one temperature away from another temperature. Insulation is neither heating nor cooling. It is keeping the cold stuff away from the hot stuff. Insulation is pretty close to isolation. You're isolating one pocket of air, so its temperature is not affected by a separate air mass. There's also a concept of thermal mass, also known as heat storage. Remember that an object in motion stays in motion unless acted upon by an external force. An object at stasis stays still unless acted upon by an external force. Well, there are also masses which will store heat, so they stay hot until you actively cool them. The whole magic of Adobe is that it's very difficult to change its temperature. So it's just average. When it's super hot outside, your house is still average. And when it's super cold outside, your house is still average. The idea of thermal mass is often described as thermal inertia. This is why we build stuff into houses, why a lot of houses have large bodies of water in them. Number 5 is convection, the idea that hot air rises and cold air sinks. So if you live where the hot air is in winter and live where the cold air is, or if you can create hot air, let it out, which would suck in cold from outside. These are called convection currents, a big part of passive solar design. Evaporative cooling, like sweating, that's how green roofs work, or green roofs. Deciduous trees or vines, they provide shade when the leaves are on, and of course, their leaves fall off when it's cold, which is when you want the sunlight. Shades, awnings, other ways to affect how much light enters through windows. It doesn't sound like it, but just being able to do this is a tremendous benefit for energy savings. The dome that I had in the mountains has this giant window in the front that we could never cover. So when we found a way to do this in our geodesic dome, it changed the temperature extremes by it lowered the high by about 20 degrees. And finally, cross ventilation, being able to open doors and windows and just let the air move more, releasing your heat or trapping your heat when you need it. Plain old cross ventilation is actually a really good option. A lot of houses are cheaper to build without ventilation. Windows and doors cost money. And so a lot of places just spend a bunch of energy because they didn't want to spend the money up front, adding a window to let the air out. Okay, I hope that you will be able to do more of this research in the next 2 weeks before you bring me your plans. But today we're here to focus on the car lot of the future. If you haven't finished your poster, please give up now. I would not want you to be distracted any more than you've already been.